fellow reptilians, and welcome back to the Repster, where movies and entertainment are our reputation. So The Babysitter is a Netflix film that was released in 2017. It was directed by Mick G. And it follows the story of a young boy who tries to survive the night after finding out that his babysitter is a part of a cult. So I've been hearing rumblings about this all over social media, and since the sequel to this just got released, I figured I'd throw my 2 cents in. So let's start in with the positive of The Babysitter. The story, I thought it was a good, solid story, kind of slick it away. You find out that this boy has this babysitter who's a real knockout, but is just crazy. At first, she seems normal. Of course, the best villains always do seem to be normal at first. And then you find out she's just bad crap crazy. She's a psychotic, psychopathic, crazy cult witch. Almost slick it away, and kind of poetic. The characters is great. Particularly Judah Lewis, who plays the kid, Kool. Sort of a shy type, scared. He's got a lot of flaws about him, and he's not really sure of himself. But he plays a pretty good part. He was a pretty good character. Judah Lewis, I hadn't really seen him in much. I don't know if this was his first project, but he seemed to have played this part pretty good. Then you got Samara Weaving, who plays the babysitter / cult leader. She's really crazy yet tough, but just a knockout. A definite knockout. And the dynamic between the two, between this babysitter and this kid, was just awesome. They set this movie up in a way in the first act where you really care about these characters. They acted like a brother and sister towards each other, even though they wasn't related. So there was this one particular scene where they were swimming, and she takes off everything except for swimsuit. And of course, that's going to rattle any boy's mind, especially at his age, which I'm assuming he was about 13, 15 at this point. Maybe younger, but still old enough to know. But yeah, the first act really sets it off for these characters, and it makes me really care. Especially at the point when the kid finds out that she's just a crazy wackadoo. Director Mick G directed this, and I think he's a really good director. He took this in a really good direction. He's the guy that brought us such films as Charlie's Angels, This Means War, Terminator Salvation. Some of his films are hit and miss, but some of them are pretty good. But those are the main ones that I liked of him, other than this film, of course. But in the direction that they took this film, The Babysitter, it was pretty good. I like him as a director. I think he's really cool. He definitely had his work cut out for him. And I like the life message that this movie obviously brings. Especially towards the third act when the final confrontation goes down. You know, a lot of things in life is scary. And you gotta figure out what you want and do what you can to get it. Even though that line was brought on by the crazy babysitter, it still applies in life. And you gotta do what you gotta do to make it by. And this kid had a lot of faults about him. Not in character, but what he felt about himself and what we all feel about ourselves. And, it may not be that big, it may not stick out like a sore thumb to others, but in this film, I think it stuck out to me because I'm flawed. I have a handicap. I don't think I'm perfect. No, of course, nobody's perfect. I mean, I'm not as down as this kid was in this film, but the message in this was pretty sound. And he used to get picked on a lot. And then you get a lot of these lessons on how to defend yourself, which is what this kid definitely needed in this film, which is what I think a lot of people need, especially if you're being bullied. And I think that's what this film really brought out, especially at this point. And especially when he was defeating pure evil. The blood and gore was actually pretty awesome. It was on point. It looked real. The scene where the one guy kept on getting spewed by was actually pretty hilarious. It happened more than once. This film was pretty fun. It was a good film. It's not perfect by far. It has its flaws, which brings me to the negatives. The humor didn't really work for me. Now, the first couple of times, it did. There's a scene where when you first get that there's humor in this, a lot of people on social media, I noticed before I even started watching these, would say that it's not even a horror film. Well, yeah, it is, but it does have a lot of humor in it, and I think that's why it kind of drove people away from the horror sense of it, and I don't really think that's a good idea. Not always. I mean, some films it does kind of, if you're making a parody film, like Naked Gun or Scary Movie or something like that. But if you throw too much humor in it, now I'm not admitting that I know how it is to be a filmmaker. I know sometimes I talk it, but I'm just a moviegoer like any of y'all. But I just feel like if you make a horror film with too much humor, it just takes you away from the horror itself, which is what you go to these movies for in the first place. Now, don't get me wrong. I get that this movie was supposed to be a comedy. The filmmakers intended it to be that way, but for me, just didn't work. But the horror element was aces in my book. The humor did not work. Like, the first time humor got brought up, it was kind of funny. It made me chuckle. Like, you see Weaving's character, the babysitter, tell the kid on how to defend himself, and, you just kick him in the dick. That was kind of funny to me. But then it just sort of added on later on to the point of where it just got tiresome. And it just kind of became moot at a certain point. Just didn't really matter. Like, there's another character in this film which kind of got on my nerves. Her name is Allison, played by Bella Thorne. After a scene where she accidentally gets shot in the boob, she keeps on complaining about it constantly. Really got on my nerves. She was just cheerleader type, kind of preppy, I guess you could say. But she kept on complaining and complaining about it. We get it. There are actually doctors out there that could actually fix that. It's got a boob job. Look into it. If you wasn't such a crazy psychopathic killer and wasn't in this situation in the first place, then you wouldn't have to complain. Easy fix. And there's another scene that kind of got to me, kind of like a logic scene, where the kid actually takes the babysitter, Samara Weaving's character's advice, and he actually kicks one of the assailants when he was chasing him in the while he was on the ground. But then he just stands there. And this is the problem with all horror movies. And I don't know if it has something to do with shock and all, but in a logic sense, you do that to your assailant, to the person that's chasing you and trying to kill you, you run away. You don't stand there to see how he's doing or just stand there like an idiot. Oh, I kicked him in the crotch. Okay, I'm going to watch. I'm just going to watch. Oh, he's already up now, so he could get me again. That's just stupid. Just, if I was him, I would have ran away as fast as I could. Would have been halfway down the road by then. It just annoys me to the max. You see Jason coming after you, and you find a way to defeat him. You don't stand around. You actually use those two little things that God gave you. It's called legs, and run. Just saying, logic. The Babysitter is a fun, slick horror film that, despite its flaws, is still an enjoyable piece of filmmaking that's a for sure sweet delight. So, The Babysitter, have you seen it? What did you think of it? Did you enjoy it for what it was? Did you enjoy the humor? Did you like its tenseness? Or did you just find it to be a waste? Leave me your comment down below and give me your thoughts. Stay tuned for my review of The Babysitter Killer Queen, which just got released. I should have that out for you soon. Be sure to like, subscribe, and comment if you hadn't already, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace the Red House.